Imagine this. You're Anjali, a third-generation textile exporter in Jaipur. Your whole life revolves around vibrant fabrics, the whir of sewing machines, and the sweet smell of chai brewing in the factory office. For years, your biggest client has been a trendy home goods chain in the United States. Let's call them Boho Bungalow. They love your hand-blocked printed quilts. They're your bread and butter. Your relationship is solid. You've got their orders booked for the next 6 months, and you've just hired 20 new artisans to keep up with the demand. Life is good. You're finally thinking about upgrading the factory's ancient air conditioning system. Then, one Tuesday morning you get an email. The subject line is just urgent, order #BB 734. Your heart does a little flip. Maybe they want to double the order. You open it and your stomach drops. It's not a bigger order, it's a cancellation. All of it, the entire 6-month contract, gone. The email is short, full of corporate jargon like unforeseen market dynamics and reevaluating sourcing strategies. What it really means is, sorry Anjali, it's not you, it's the tariffs. Suddenly the factory floor feels silent and those 20 new faces you just hired look at you with a new kind of uncertainty. The chai suddenly tastes bitter. So what is this big scary monster called a tariff that just blew up Anjali's business? Let's break it down. Think of it like a cover charge but for countries. A tariff is basically a tax that a government slaps on goods imported from another country. So when Boho Bungalow in the United States wants to buy Anjali's beautiful quilts from India, the US government steps in and says, hold up, before that quilt can enter the country, you gotta pay us a fee. Suddenly, that affordable handcrafted quilt from India isn't so affordable anymore. It's kind of like trying to buy a concert ticket and finding out there's a massive surprise convenience fee at checkout that costs more than the ticket itself. Now, why did President Trump decide to play bouncer at the door of the US economy? The official line was all about protecting American jobs and industries. The argument went something like this. For decades, countries like China and, to a lesser extent, India, have been able to produce goods much more cheaply. This made it tough for American factories to compete. So, by making imported goods more expensive with tariffs, the idea was that American companies would be encouraged to buy American-made products instead. It was an America First strategy, designed to bring manufacturing jobs back to the United States and level what was seen as an unfair global playing field. The problem is, global trade isn't a simple us versus them game, it's an incredibly complex and interconnected web. For years, US companies built their entire business models around sourcing the best, most affordable products from wherever they could find them, India included. They weren't just chasing low prices, they were often seeking specific skills, materials, and craftsmanship that weren't available at home. The tariffs didn't magically create a new American factory that could replicate Anjali's hand-blocked quilts overnight for the same price. Instead, it just made the existing system more expensive for everyone involved. Back in the United States, the folks at Boho Bungalow are in a panic. They didn't cancel Anjali's order because they stopped loving her quilts. They canceled because the numbers no longer worked. Let's say a quilt costs them $20 to import. After a new 25% tariff, that same quilt now costs them $25. They can't just absorb that cost, their profit margins are already thin. So they have two choices: pass the extra cost onto their customers and risk losing sales, or find a new supplier. They can't just raise the price of the quilt from $50 to $62.50 and expect their customers, who are used to a certain price point, to just go along with it, so the frantic search begins. The buyers at Boho Bungalow start desperately looking for alternatives. Maybe they can find a supplier in a country not hit by the tariffs like Vietnam or Bangladesh. But that's a huge gamble. They've spent years building a relationship with Anjali. They trust her quality, her delivery times, her ethical labor practices. Starting over with a new, unvetted factory is risky and time-consuming. Or, they could look for a US-based manufacturer, but as they quickly discover there aren't many factories in the United States that can produce hand-blocked quilts at a scale and price that makes sense for a national retail chain. The American dream of domestic manufacturing runs into the hard reality of global economics. This creates a massive headache for American businesses. They are now spending valuable time and resources untangling and rebuilding their supply chains, a process that took decades to perfect. They are forced to make tough choices, often sacrificing quality or reliability for price. And what about the American consumer? You, the person strolling through Boho Bungalow looking for a nice quilt. Suddenly, you notice that the prices are higher, or the selection is worse, or those unique, beautiful items you loved are just gone. You might not know the word tariff, but you feel its effect. Let's go back to Jaipur, to Anjali's factory. The cancelled orders don't just exist on a spreadsheet, they have a human cost. Anjali has to face her workers, the artisans, the tailors, the packers. These aren't just employees, they are people she has known for years. There's Raju, the master printer whose father taught him the craft, and who is saving up for his daughter's education. There's Sita, a single mother who is the sole breadwinner for her family. Anjali has to tell them that their hours are being cut, or worse, that she has to let some of them go. This is the untold story of the trade war. It's not about politicians and statistics, it's about people. It's about a US store owner struggling to keep their doors open and an Indian artisan worrying about how to feed their family. The lines on the global trade map are not just economic connections, they are human connections. For every shipping container that gets stopped at the port, there's a chain of real people on both ends whose lives are disrupted. The policy may be called America First, but it forces everyone, including Americans, to deal with the consequences of a less connected, more fractured world. But here's the thing about connections. Once they're made, they're hard to break completely. This entire episode, as painful as it is, serves as a powerful lesson in global interdependence. It shows us that we're not living in isolated economic bubbles. A decision made in one country's capital can create ripples that are felt in a small workshop half a world away, and vice versa. It forces us to see trade not just as a transaction but as a relationship. It highlights how much we rely on each other, not just for goods but for ideas, for culture, and for shared prosperity. In the end, this isn't just a story about tariffs. It's a story about our interconnected world. The future isn't about building walls, whether they are physical or economic. It's about building stronger, more resilient bridges. It's about understanding that the success of a business in Jaipur and the happiness of a customer in Ohio are linked. True strength in the 21st century doesn't come from isolation, but from collaboration. It comes from recognizing that we are all part of the same global supply chain of humanity, and a breakdown in one link weakens the entire chain for everyone.